All right, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. If you're not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. And let's get into it today. So we did have a lot of whipsaw in the markets. You can see, take a look from that bottom yesterday, up move, and then kind of this further zigzag up here, but market all over the map here. Talked about this morning. Said 4,200 was a level of interest. Obviously, we did not get down there. We never took out the lows. And then around midday, I told my members in the chat, like, we probably stall out right in this area here, and then we get a close up near the highs of the day. So, and that is what's happening. I didn't think we would pull back as much as we did. We actually almost had a pretty good rollover in the middle of the day, but we are doing what I expected by the end of the day, which is closing right near the highs, and we are coming off a little bit here. It's 3:38, doing the video a little early. I don't expect a ton of fireworks here before the close. But bottom line, bounce day. Take a look at Tesla, by the way, up 6%. You know, you got to just love this market. Like everything's breaking, and it's like Tesla is just a tool they use to pump it when they need it pumped. Apple downgraded today. That dip was bought there. Look at where it's going to test, right there to that trend line as well. So those two names obviously helping prop the market up big time. Nvidia not really doing a whole lot. The SMH is getting a bid. We'll talk about that in a minute, obviously. But the big question, obviously, is, are the lows in? That's all anybody cares about, right? Well, they kind of, did they leave everybody at the altar here, right? So everybody looking for that 200 moving average. Got very close yesterday, didn't quite get there today. If you look at the futures following the ES, we did basically get there. This could be a case of a lot of eyeballs on it, right? I did a lot of my video yesterday on the 200 MA. I'm sure everyone else on YouTube and Twitter was talking about this as well. And when you get those eyeballs there, a lot of the time it gets front ran, and it did come off the lows. Big question, right? Do I think the lows are in, right? That's what you're here for. I don't think so. We gapped up. Again, I'm going to say the same thing I said last week. You're not going to end on a gap up. And we just, for all intents and purposes, it was kind of a gap and go as far as this candle is concerned. Obviously, intraday, that's not the case, but, a gap up and then a close at the highs. They do this a lot in bear markets, right? They close you near the high, and you never take out, a real resistance level like this one, and then there's nothing to say we don't gap it down. I know everybody's going to look at that and say, like, oh, your eyes are going to get real big. Look at this big rally. The lows are in, but use a bigger time frame intraday, and 4 hour still not that great. Still below those moving averages. Doesn't mean it can't put in a low here, but usually you look for a gap down, a flush, and then a rebound all in the same day. And then from there, you can gap and go the following day. That's what I look for. That's what I am looking for. And I haven't seen that yet. So while it could be, maybe they left everyone at the altar here with the 200, but I'm not convinced yet. There's still things breaking in this market. We talked about JNK. By the way, big volume there. So that, I don't know, maybe they came in and defended this under the radar. But take a look at that. HYG as well. VNQ we've talked about. That chart's a mess. What else have we talked about? The yen. I mean, there's so many things, right? So if I can get the yen chart up there. There we go. That's coming back in. These things are all problems right now. Obviously, the 30-year is a big issue. That can still go higher still. It's getting parabolic. It's getting stretched. It's due to pull back, but it doesn't mean it can't go and test 5%. If it does test 5%, I expect Fed speakers to come out and push it down with jawboning. But I say all that to say this. The next victim, UGA, so gas futures, or this ETF here, down almost 7%. If you follow gas futures RB, there it is, 666. There you go. What's this telling us, right? This is not just simple repricing, like the XLP stocks, XLU, this is in free fall. May have put in a low yesterday, had a good volume there, very stretched, but, again, we talked about VNQ, JNK, the 30-year, the yen, next thing to go, crude. That's not just a simple pullback candle. Like, that looks like someone's getting margin called. Gold, the bottom falling out of that without warning, without news, for no reason. even silver coming in. It looks like some things are starting to break under the hood. And that's what happens when you have the fastest rate hike cycle ever. There's going to be consequences at some point. It's almost as if rates matter. But in any case, markets are getting a bounce. This is not the point of danger, though. The point of danger is when they bounce 3-4 days in a row, and then you get all the shorts out. That's when it can get dangerous. But in any case, getting a little ahead of ourselves, we are getting a bounce. We'll leave it at that. If this is some type of short-term low, we probably will go up and retest this head and shoulder neckline on the SPY. That's probably where it wants to go. Maybe, if it's weak, it could stall out at, 432 and roll over. Or, hey, maybe it rejects here. I don't know. But I just don't see, I could be wrong. But I just don't see this as being a low yet. We are coming into a lot of support here. I will say that. I'd prefer it get tested. I'd prefer it to get tested and pierce that 200 moving average. Again, I told you yesterday, a lot of the time they'll come down, hit the 200, and then they'll break it to the downside to get everybody out. And then you can kind of get that final low in place. But right now, market's getting a bounce. We'll leave it at that. Triple Q's leading up 1.5. And we're basically just below yesterday's highs. So we'll see what we do here. Again, 15 minutes left. I wouldn't make too much out of it. We're probably just going to stay in this range. Probably close right in this area. I'll take you into the close. One thing that is interesting, IWM, that may have put in a good low here. Take a look on the corner of your screen. You can see the inverse head and shoulder there too. And that could take you up to this trend line. So if I do that on an intraday for you, and that's one reason that we could, or maybe we're not going to go test that 4,200 tomorrow. Maybe it won't be until next week. But there you go. There's your pattern. And look where it lines up to. Right, so right on the money. So we'll watch that tomorrow. Again, it's really stretched to the downside, really overdone. But that is a welcome sign for bulls there, at least in the near term. Dow here still can't get out of its own way. It is getting a little bit of a bid here, but this has definitely been weak. There is still a lot of weekly support right here. Again, there's your reversal or your rollover, and then you reversed big time there. So that's where there is some support. Still has that head and shoulder down to about 325. So until proven otherwise, that can still get down there. Just be aware of that. Semis getting a bid, as we talked about, at 1.5. Still just kind of riding that 20 moving average down. Again, we'll see what that does tomorrow. If this does roll over, you definitely don't want to take this low out. Otherwise, it's down to 129. And speaking of the Qs here, it did have a nice day today, but I just want to, sometimes I like looking at these inverted charts. It kind of has that kind of inverted cup and handle look. And that's why I say there's still, we're still really not out of the woods here. And you could even make the same case for the semis, right? There it is. But, they're holding up for now. We'll leave it at that. You start getting back above this trend line, then I think things are repaired here, at least for now. But again, semis getting a bid. We'll leave it at that. Cloud also getting a bid as well. Still below those moving averages. Got to get back above these pivots here around 346.50. And then 350 is kind of your upside. Again, you don't want to take these pivots out. Otherwise, you're probably going down to that 200 to test. Dow Transport's scratching out again. Little tail candle. Again, perfect example of what I was saying with the 200. Right? You come down, you just kiss it, you bounce, and then you take out the low. And then maybe you put in a low, right? That's kind of, I've seen that happen a lot. I'm not saying that has to happen for the SPX, but I've seen it happen a lot. And the transports tend to lead the market, so maybe that's what they're telling us. But again, if we do take this out on a weekly close, these moving averages here, it's down to 14,000, so just be aware of that. But transport's very oversold. Interest rates here. Okay, so we'll start off with the 2-year as always. That's backing off nicely, but you still have technically an inside bar until you close below 5.05. We're exactly there right now. So if we close below that, could be a sign that the 2-year is topped out for now. If we look at the yield curves, look at the 210. I'm telling you guys, something is not right with the market. And in the short term, you might say, well, isn't that good if the yield curves are uninverting? Yeah, but that means that recession's probably here and things might be about to break. So that's historically what that means when the yield curve uninverts. Take a look at the 3-month 10-year. 5s and 30s, 10s and 30s are already uninverted. Watch this. Be careful with that. By the way, before I forget, take a look at this. If we look at the spiders, and this historically, I've talked about this in these videos before. When did the Fed pause? Right there. When did the Fed pause last time? Right there, right? So it's those kind of sell the news, like everybody thinks it's a great thing when the Fed stops, but really it's the question becomes, why did they stop? Same thing with the yield curve uninverting. The psychology essentially is that, now, wait a minute, are things actually starting to break here? But anyways, 5-year pulling back, 10-year pulling back here, 30-year also pulling back. Got very close. Looks like it, just touched 5.01 overnight, I believe. If this does shoot through 5%, I do think the Fed speakers come out and jawbone it back down. Just so you know, that's just my opinion. But rates parabolic, they need to pull back. But again, they've been repressed for 40 years, so that's what happens. All right, XHB getting a little bit of a bounce. Didn't quite get to my 72 target, but again, getting a bit here. We'll look at this trend line here, gap fill. If you get through that, maybe a trade up to the 20, maybe up to this pivot. But again, little bounce there. Bouncing with the rest of the market, won't make out a whole bunch out of it. VNQ getting a dead cat as well. Could be a low. You got to close the week back above this pivot. But you guys know I don't like the monthly. Big bearish and sidebar. It's getting a bounce today, and we'll leave it there. XLF, again, getting a bounce. I told you guys 32. Didn't quite get there. Again, getting a bid here. We'll see what that does. Again, 1, 2, 3 days down. I think I said it might be green today. 3-bar sell in a row. So, we'll look at 33.25, and then again, this trend line here would be your upside objectives there in the short term. KRE defending the 40 handle, needed to do that. Still don't like that chart though. And then same thing with KBE, it's getting a defense. We'll leave it alone. And then KBWB defending 38, which needed to happen as well. Broker dealers here, finally green. So it's sitting at 470. This got all the way down to 464. Right near this pivot, got really close and then bounced there again. You have a little bit at the 200. I would say 480 here in the near term is probably going to be your target though. And then of course that 20 moving average is down sloping. I talked about crude already. Did cover my short today. Got into that 50 moving average. I think there's a lot of support at 84, but again, those yield curves are telling us something's wrong. Crude's telling us something's wrong. And if margin selling takes over, if we break these levels, I'm a crude bull, but margin selling matters way more than macro. So just keep that in mind. And I wouldn't begin to tell you where I could think this could go. But there is a lot of support here at 82 to 84. If you take that out, again, there's 75. There's a pivot here at 77. There's lots of little support areas, but if something big negative happens, this can go down big time. By the way, you don't want to close the week below this green bar here. And we're below that now, obviously. XLE, look at that slice. 85. I told you guys 85, right to the 200. Big dump. So just a massive sell there, down 3.5, right? And I talked about this earlier today on Twitter. They had to gamma squeeze Tesla to keep the market from crashing today, and Apple too. Because look at that. That makes up a big portion of the S&P now. So big move, 85. That should hold right now. XOP almost got to 135. So that was my level I gave you guys. 135.32. That's decent support. I think this wants to go down, not right now, but eventually you're probably going down to 129, 130, and into this trend line here, just based on the velocity of how you've come down. But energy stocks finally correcting. OIH, big slice. Again, I told you guys I don't like how you didn't build supports up here, but let's say it, it could hold the 20-week moving average, maybe even the 50-week. But that monthly level worked out. Little tail candle into that moving average and then pulling back. Uranium down as well. The CCJ off the lows. Kind of came into a little pivot here, little breakout pivot, and then tested it. So it's holding for now. I think this could go down to the 20-week moving average, though. Don't rule that out. And again, you guys know how my weekly candles work. You close below that, Camco's done for a while. URNM, it's a little bit trickier because you have a wider breakout bar. But again, let's just say it went up into resistance, and I mean, you'll have some support around 40. If you get through that, really down to 37, like that 20-week moving average is a long way away. That's why I begged you guys, please don't chase these things up here. So, I mean, look how quickly this went from 49 to 42 in 4 days. Natty, getting a bid, pulling back. Actually made new year-to-date highs. Inventory numbers tomorrow. I don't know what this wants to do. They could come down and fill the gap. It could break out. If you get a weekly close above 303, it's on breakout. That's really the best I can give you here. Okay. Where are we going next? Dollar index. So pulling off of 107, stopping at 106.71 here. Still uptrend. Uptrend is still intact, despite yields coming back in. If there is some legitimate risk off move, don't think the dollar has to come in just because yields come in, because there will probably be a flight to safety. So just keep that in mind. Dollar is still into weekly resistance. Also keep that in mind. But lastly, the trend on the monthly is up very strong. This is a very strong uptrend here. So I wouldn't bet against it, but it is still stretched. So I'm kind of just neutral on the DXY right now. Gold trying to bounce, but down just 260, nothing crazy here. Holding that level for now. Got to hold these lows here. I'm going to move this because really all I care about now with gold is, let's just move this here. So that's going to be 1813.40. So I'll type that in for you. So that's really the big level on gold. That's all I care about on a monthly close. If it's above that, it's still bullish on a monthly. If below that on a monthly close, it's done. Silver here holding 21. That's getting a bounce. That's still a very good level for right now. And platinum getting close. I think it's got one more flush. Palladium starting to flush lower as well. That still got lower to go. And then copper, that looks like it's going to confirm below this wedge here. Another thing that's starting to slip here. Could this be telling us recession's coming? Combine that with the yield curves, what junk bonds and everything else are telling us, possibly. But this pivot goes, it's down to 340. All right, Bitcoin lastly, as always. So let's take a look here. So Bitcoin hanging in there again, 27.6. And right now you've got an inside bar. So daily chart is okay. Daily chart, you still have an inverse head and shoulders. The weekly chart is a negative because you have a bearish inside bar. The monthly chart is still okay though because you have a bullish inside bar. So I'm neutral on it. But you guys know I'm looking for, if this head and shoulder, inverse head and shoulder plays out, it can go to 30,000. If you get a weekly close above that, this honestly could squeeze up because that is your red bar high. So 30,086 might happen. Maybe the weekly pattern plays out bear. I don't know. But again, I'm neutral on it, but slight positive bias right now. Anyways, so markets here, looks like Russell's pulling back just a touch. Yeah, so a little pullback here. We should close right in this area. Market's closing in 4 minutes. Again, nice pop here. We're going to close the highs of the day like I expected. But I would have preferred a flush out, and I would have preferred it on volume and a gap down. Maybe they left everybody on the altar. If they did and we continue higher tomorrow, look for, if we can get above this trend line, look for this pivot and then this area in the short term. But I don't think this little thing, whatever it is over. This environment's definitely very tricky. And you got to be careful here, especially when junk debt, utilities, the yen, now gasoline prices, yield curves, all changing at the same time. Markets generally don't like that type of thing. So anyways, guys, gonna wrap up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I will talk to you guys all tomorrow.